You are listening to the Marketing 32 Show with your host, Brett Allen.
Hi, Brett Allen here, host of the Marketing 32 Show, where I connect with leading dentists, dental influencers, and industry experts to uncover the latest and greatest on how you as docs and teams can grow and thrive in your dental practices. This episode, as always, is brought to you by the team here at Marketing 32. We are the only dental marketing company that I know of that is truly invested in your growth. And if you're not growing, then we don't get paid. We really try to find those doctors that we know we can have a huge impact for and we know we can deliver value for. So if you need help with growth or with your marketing, reach out to us at Marketing 32 and let's have a call and see if this would be a great fit. Quick shout out to JJ Lichell at Tuatera. She and her firm help docs with financials and taxes as a CPA. But also I think they go above and beyond that. They get into what budgeting is required for growth and how your associates and your team, different metrics you can look at to make sure you're leveraging them for growth. So excited to introduce today who is on our show, Dr. Paul Goodman. His reputation precedes himself. A lot of you guys know him in the industry. Paul's dream was not to be a dentist. It was to play in the NBA for the Philadelphia 76ers. That dream did not work out because he was too slow and lacked the traditional body type of an NBA star.
That's true.
Dr. Goodman's new dream is to help dentists decrease stress, increase success, and reduce crying inside the Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect community, both created to help dentists and humans in need. Dr. Goodman's motto is ABC, always be connecting, and he's here to connect with you today. Thank you for being on the show, Dr. Goodman.
Awesome, Brett. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share. I don't know if this is going to be on video. I've got my motto up here, keep all crying on the inside. When you're a dentist, that is a fun joke, but also a very frustrating part of what we do. It's really, really difficult to constantly have to be on stage, not really ever being allowed to show your true feelings as a dentist. And while I make a fun joke about it, it is a huge frustration and something people should know more about, whether you work in a dental office, whether you're a patient, dentist, or people too. One of my videos that's very popular, the closing line is, no one really likes the dentist, so we may as well like each other, which is a big part of Dental Nachos. So appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, excited to talk with you deeper and talk to you more about Dental Nachos. But before we kind of get into that, let's kind of go back to day one. Why dentistry? How did you get into dentistry? And what do you've grown a practice now and ultimately Dental Nachos. Tell us that story.
So back in the 90s, I graduated high school in 95. The traditional career paths for people in central New Jersey were dentist, doctor, or lawyer. So there was not as many cool creative careers that exist in 2025. There were some advantages, some disadvantages, but I wanted to be a doctor like George Clooney from ER, a lawyer, attorney like Tom Cruise from A Few Good Men, or a dentist like my dad. Thrilled that I chose dentist like my dad. My dad was an amazing dad and mentor, sadly passed away in 2016. But he always said that it's great to be your own boss. It's great to be your own boss. And I really took that part as something that I would like to do, also like helping people. So I did a 7-year program. I did 3 years at Villanova, 4 years at Penn Dental School. That was a cool thing because I got to save a year of tuition. I was automatically into dental school as long as I kept up my grades in Villanova. Not many people know about these programs, but they are still out there. When you go to dental school, in medical school, you follow doctors around a hospital and then you do a residency. So in medical school, the medical students get some hands-on experience, not much, but they're mainly there to kind of follow doctors around the hospital and see how the hospital works. And then they do residencies, which I think is a phenomenal way to learn a skill. And I think there's many problems with how dentists are pushed out from the dental school experience into the real world. My dad said, don't come practice with me right away. He did the Air Force, which he thought was a great experience. But in the Air Force, there was no teachers there to help him. There were just other Air Force generals. I don't know the military ranking, so I apologize if I'm not saying that right. But basically, he was in his own room. And if he was having the problem as a patient, he could go to another bigger, stronger Air Force general who was a dentist and say, would you come help me? But that person had a patient. So many times they said, I don't have time to help you, Dr. Goodman. So he'd have to go back and figure it out on his own, which he said was a good experience, but not a great one. I mean, and I might be kind of, just exaggerating, but he basically said these other Air Force dentists had patients too. A general practice residency, you are there to learn under bigger, stronger dentists who don't have patients. They're literally to come into your operatory and say, this is how the crown should be done. Here's how an implant's placed. And I loved it. I stayed for 3 years. I got to place 150 implants. That was a big deal back in the 2002 to 2005. I just had one of my dental school classmates here, actually at Nacho headquarters. And I can tell you things that I don't like pretty easily. And I don't like the full contact arts and crafts part of dentistry. It's full contact arts and crafts on people who don't want to be there, because arts and crafts are unpredictable. You do a filling, you do a crown, it's this artwork, but you're not always sure how it's going to turn out. With implant dentistry, I really love that because it was predictable. You place an implant, you screw something into it, they make hundreds of thousands of these screws, and I just love that part of it. And also, I know it's not the point of this podcast, but I want to point out that dental implants, Brett, cannot get decay. And there's only 3 things that can happen to a tooth that are not so great. It can break, bone can shrink, and it can get a cavity. And I think it's very cool that we have invented something that is more resistant to the risk factors that attack teeth. And this is very controversial to dentists because they love the natural tooth, okay? Laugh of a child.
Yeah, especially biodentists.
World peace, laugh of a child, world peace. Nothing compared to dentin and cementum. And I joke with them and saying, I really love that dental implants were more resistant to risk factors. They can have problems too, so I'm clear. So I did that residency program. I came out, I joined my dad and his partner in practice. I was teaching for an implant company called Hyacinth, teaching dentists how to place implants. I was also running a little study club in Philadelphia called the Rising Dentist Study Club, which our mission, Brett, was if dentists got to know each other earlier in their career, they would hate each other less later. That was truly the mission. I said, why don't we get together and be friends when we're younger dentists? And this kind of comes back into play with Dental Nachos. So then teaching, practicing with my dad and my brother, we bought another practice. I always wanted to, we brought in-house specialists into our practice. We have a surgical prosthodontist, a periodontist. And in 2017, a year after sadly my dad had passed away, dental Facebook group become a thing. And I am someone who likes to share my thoughts. So I was on these groups that were there, but I said, you know what, I'm pretty opinionated. Why don't I start my own group about implants and practice management and bringing people together? And she's not usually here, but you can actually see her head over the computer there. I'm sure she loves me pointing her out, but that's my wife, Mrs. Nacho. She loves that name. You could wave there for a second, Mary, if she doesn't hear me. So most good ideas come from your wife, right? So we're sitting around our kitchen table, February 2017. I'm about to start this Facebook group. I said, what should we call it, Mary? And she was really the one behind Dental Nachos. Here's the meaning of that. Nachos are messy. They're meant to be shared. There's a funny comedian, Nick Swartzen, who said you would fight your grandmother for the last nacho chip on the plate. I mean, I'll ask you, Brett, when someone orders mozzarella sticks and there's 6 mozzarella sticks and there's 6 people, very easy sharing. But if you've ever been said, let's get nachos, everyone says, yes, it's pretty complicated sharing. Would you agree?
Yeah, it is. There's always like,
you're
are
going
you going
with
to take
your
that last
fork
one?
too deep, or you taking too many, right? And then I'm also a broker, speaker, and a dentist. So I'm like a bunch of toppings. I started selling dental practices too. Never thought any of this would happen. I'm doing the Facebook group. I'm running practices. I'm teaching. I'm doing the practice transitions. And my dental coach at my office said, you should meet my business coach, Aldana Ambler. Aldana Ambler, she's still alive. She's in her 70s. I credit the majority of this existing. If you like Dental Nachos, you should say thank you to Aldana, because I was convinced that I had to quit one of my jobs. And she said, you don't want to quit anything. You just want to hire 2 people to help you with this Facebook group thing you have going on. I didn't know that you could hire people for the ideas in your head. And that now has transformed Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect, which helps people hire associates. We have about 17 people working between the 2 companies. It's a real business, not me running around with my cell phone doing Facebook Lives. The way that business is generated, you have been gracious enough to support us as a sponsor. We have sponsors, we have CE, we help with practice transitions, the 4 biggest decisions of your life: finding a job, buying a practice, hiring an associate, and selling that practice. But what I hope is people think of Dental Nachos as a friend in their phone, a place where they can ask questions, a place where they could feel less alone. When you run, I mean, I'm part of a golden doodle group, right? Because I got a golden doodle. And I mean, those people on Facebook, they're vicious too, right? So like dentist, any Facebook group can have a degree of viciousness in it, right? So most of the people in Dental Nachos are amazing. There are some that are aggravating.
It is a great community.
And I'm inspired when people say, you know what, Paul, I come home from work and I read Dental Nachos and I feel less alone and I feel like I can ask questions. And that's really what's fulfilling to me.
there's a lot of these dental communities out there, and I think what I like most about yours is how engaged everybody is. It's not just the founder of the group constantly pushing out content or a handful of people. There's a lot of activity going on.
I appreciate that. I want to make it safe for people to ask questions.
Yeah, it's a safe place to go to with questions.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, I've certainly benefited from it. We love being a sponsor of Dental Nachos. But let's talk a little bit more. So how much clinical dentistry are you doing now?
So I'm doing 0% clinical dentistry. So what happened over time was, I always was kind of doing 3 days a week, 2 days a week of other stuff. My brother wouldn't be able to do it without him. He's the managing partner of our practice back when my dad was alive. If you want to do other things as a dentist, it's nearly impossible to do them as a solo practice owner. So if you want to go do other things as a dentist, because every business is like a child, and my dental practices are like teenagers and college kids, right? They're predictable. They have some of their own stresses, but I have a 6-year-old that's different stresses, right? So my Dental Nachos business is kind of like how you would think of a 6-year-old child. Dentist Job Connect, kind of like a 2-year-old child. So what I'll share is you have to pay attention to all of your business children. And it was my brother and my dad and my associates allowed me to have a flexible schedule. So over time, I went from 3 days, 2 days, 1 day. And now dentistry is a lot like, we just saw this great play, Anne Juliet. It's amazing. I hope people see it. It has all the pop songs of our generations in it. It's what happened if Juliet didn't die at the end of the movie and she lived. It's amazing, right?
Oh, I have to check that one out.
We see this play, right? And occasionally in plays, they have understudies. And Romeo was the understudy for ours, who was awesome, right? But Romeo was there every day watching the other Romeo do it. And they said, Friday night, you're off main Romeo. We're going to have the understudy. Dentistry, if you're not in the mix every day, you become more of a nuisance than a help, right? For clinical dentistry. So I can come and lead the team and answer questions. And maybe if I need to do an implant consult. But fortunately, I've done it, Brett. No one needs me to do a crown anymore. So I pass that on to everybody else. So currently, I go 2 days a month in my practice and contribute joy. I think that's how they describe it. But I don't do any clinical dentistry at this time.
That's awesome. Congrats on where you're at. I think it's awesome.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Let's talk about, prior to the show, we were talking about how you help dentists create a treatment plan for career success, both inside and outside the op.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Like, how do you do that?
I appreciate you sharing something. One of my friends who's also been a sponsor is coming to Boost Camp, Paul Etchison. I call him the taller and less funnier Paul. He also, maybe this is you. He's got a green bubble phone. I know nobody likes that, right? He's not a non-iPhone. So, he's messing up group text threads. I don't care if it takes better pictures.
I'm on iPhone.
Yeah. I don't care if it takes better pictures. I don't care if it takes better pictures. It takes 5 minutes for a picture to download on your phone. Anyway, right. Taller Paul Etchison. When we were connecting, he helps dentists with his coaching. I said, you should describe what you do as, I help with inside and outside the operatory stress. And outside the operatory stress is about 100 times more difficult to manage, because inside the operatory stress, but if I use it like basketball, inside the operatory stress is like playing a game of basketball. People travel, people miss a shot. Okay. People steal a pass. You know what's going to happen on that basketball court. So when you're inside your operatory, a crown may not fit, a patient may not get numb, right? But these are all troubleshooting things that you actually get incredibly good at, okay?
Right,
but
you control it.
Outside the operatory stress is like, I don't know if I could think of an idea of, okay, I'll think of it from last week. We had a front desk team member give their 2 weeks notice, okay? And she was leaving for a good reason. She wants to do a different career. She wants to do something else. She didn't say, I hate this office, okay? So she gave 2 weeks notice, which is normal, but not really enough time for us to get somebody new. And on the last day of her 2 weeks notice, she called out, okay? So that is outside the operatory stress, that you have a team member that no longer is playing on your team, and you didn't know that was going to happen at the beginning of the month. You have a dental insurance company that reduces what they pay you. You have one of your associate dentists who say, guess what? I'm going to go out on maternity leave. Oh, I'm so glad you're starting a family. What a happy moment for you, and a cry inside moment for me. So I think that this treatment plan you would create, pay as much attention to how great you make your crown preps, pay as much attention to how great you make your career. And one of the things I tell people to ask is, ask people this: what do you wish you did sooner? What do you regret doing? What do you regret not doing? Don't ask people if they're happy, because they'll lie to you, right? They go, when someone goes, "Are you happy?" The normal answer is just to say yes, right? Even if you're not happy, right? Are you
Yeah, you don't want
happy
to be
being
honest.
are you happy being a practice owner asked you by an associate dentist? You go, "I don't feel like telling this young dentist how it is." You go, "Yeah, I'm pretty happy," right? But if you say, "What do you wish you did sooner?" Some of the things I wish I did sooner, and I would have more money, I'd have more time, I'd have more bandwidth, is if I paid attention to insurance adjustments. Early in my career, I thought you could out exercise your diet. And I thought that in my life too. As a 20 something year old, I thought I'll run on the treadmill 10
Eat whatever
miles
you
and
want.
eat whatever I want. And that catches up with you. It does. It's not a good system. So I thought we'll produce a lot of dentistry. We'll have a great team. But my dad and his partner, they were just OG New Jersey dentists. So they took a bunch of insurance plans that reduced what they paid us. And I wish we paid attention sooner. It doesn't mean I wish I dropped them all sooner. I just wish I paid attention to the insurance adjustments sooner. So that's a good example of what you can ask people at a conference. What do you wish you did sooner? And mine of how you create a treatment plan for outside the operatory happiness. Because I regret not paying attention to that sooner. I would be a happier, more successful dentist, according to me. Like, I'm only using my own stats. I'm not using anyone else's. My level of success as a dental practice owner would be higher for me if I paid attention to this sooner. So hopefully things like that help your audience go back and have some uncomfortable conversations with themselves.
Yeah, I think it's clear on and very important on getting alignment and aware of who your authentic self is and what your standards are and what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. How do you? So let's talk a little bit more about, like, how do you work with dentists beyond just Nachos and Dentist Job Connect? How do you do one-on-one coaching?
I do a variety of things. So I love speaking. It's my favorite thing to do. You know, now I have a 6 and a 10-year-old, and I wish I had these speaking opportunities 15 years ago, because I would have been the person flying around the country twice a month to speak. I love that. Now I go about once a month to speak. So I do have these great opportunities to speak to dentists, whether they're at society meetings, whether they're at with my great friend and sponsor, Mark Costas, and the Dental Success Network and Dental Success Institute. I do what I call, this is a good one to describe because I know you help dentists with marketing. So there's something called an emergency visit. You've heard of these, a limited oral exam PA. So Brett, you're in New Jersey, you break your tooth on stale nachos, and you say, "I'm going to go to your office, Paul. I want to see what's going on." So we do a limited oral exam, an x-ray, and talk. So we say, "Hey, Brett, the way this works is you come in and you're going to pay us $200, not our exact fee. No one yell. It could be more or less. And we are going to take an x-ray of your tooth. We're going to examine this tooth, and we're going to make a good plan together. Because I don't know on the phone if you've broken this below the bone and it's not savable. I don't know if you're one of those, let's just call it super crazy hyper patients who go, I chip my tooth. I go, I can't even see it. You go, I can feel it with my tongue. I go, I'm a professional and I can't see it. So some people, Brett, say they broke off half their tooth and they come in a tiny brush. So this limited oral exam PA visit tells us where to go. Periodontist, endodontist, oral surgeon with us. I do that with consulting. I don't do consistent coaching. I'll send you to somebody else. But since I'm kind of this person who's plays the game of job finding, associate finding, practice buying, sales, I'm really good to talk to first for a really inexpensive price and then get you to somebody who does that every day. So that's the kind of coaching I do.
I love that. That's awesome. I think that's great. There's what I've loved about being in the Nachos community is there's so many specialists and people out there that help docs and their teams in very niche specific ways. Process improvement, training, insurance, all of these different facets of practice ownership. You've got people in the community that can help and
my hope
can
is
give
I want to
advice
tell
on
dentists,
all of it.
Stop DIYing things so that you have more free time. And guess what? You stink at what you're DIYing. You're a marketer. And some dentists might say, I'll read a book on Facebook ads. You should say, what if I read a book on fixing my own teeth, right? And I say this out of love, not like there's something weird that happens to dentists specifically who you think you should be able to do more than you can, even though you've never been trained, right? Like I've never been trained in HR. It took me years. Now I have a specialist for it. Before I just thought, what should I do? And most of the time, Brett, I thought wrong because I had no formal HR training.
Yeah. We so often we're like, what needs to be done? How do I do it?
Right.
Rather than who can help me with this. Yeah.
Totally with you.
Yeah. Well, let's segue with what time we've got left. Let's talk a little bit more about Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect. Maybe more specific to Dentist Job Connect, since we talked a lot about Dental Nachos. But what are you doing there with helping people find right associates, team members?
Well, I love that you asked about big wins, and I have something called SOAs. So I say in my lectures, how many of you out there, dentists and team members and professionals, if you went to a wedding and someone said, I love how you look, but I don't love those shoes, would you go home in your car thinking, man, they liked how I look, I should feel good about that? Or you go home thinking, why'd they criticize my shoes, right?
What the heck's wrong with my shoes?
And what I'll share is when you interact with people, it could be you, it could be me, it could be Dennis, we too often overvalue, the Gary Vee thing, negative feedback. And I say at the end of the day, what was your SOA, your sense of accomplishment? What was one thing that you did that you were proud of? And I make my team say it out loud on Zooms, right? I encourage people to do this. I got people posting, because remember what really goes well for you, because I get people criticizing me, complaining about me, frustrated with me. I always think that, like, if you go on every dentist Google reviews, you're going to go to the 1 stars and you're going to see 6 people who think they're the worst dentist on earth. And you're going to see 394 who think they're awesome. And in both of their minds, Gary Vee will say they're both right? They're both right.
Yeah.
But more people think you're great. So why can't we think of this? So back to you with this Dentist Job Connect. My win or my SOA is, I just said this on a call before this with a dentist who's going to be using us. I find real fulfillment, real joy in helping dentists connect for jobs, because I help 2 people with one thing. I help an exhausted practice owner get relief, and then I help another dentist find employment to feed their family. So while I am equally as proud of Dental Nachos, just like I'm equally as proud of my 2 children, Dental Nachos is a movement to help dentists learn, laugh, and feel less alone. Dental Nachos is a movement to think about your fellow dentist, and they're not your competitor, they could be your collaborator. Dental Nachos is a movement to learn that sponsors aren't out here to steal all your money, they're actually out here. So those movements I love. But movements tend to be like pie in the sky. You can't really tell how good it's going. I actually find jobs for people who don't have jobs. And that to me is so fulfilling, because they're just, I don't want to call them micro, but they are moments of success that are really meaningful. So to me, that's what Dentist Job Connect is doing. A friendly, affordable job platform. We're not like a faceless giant job platform. They can be good too. We're not a recruiter. We're in the middle, a group of real people who really care about your success. So to me, that's really my biggest win of the most recent time, is helping people actually find jobs and helping 2 people with one thing.
That's way cool. I love it. Do you now in Dentist Job Connect, are you more than just associates? You do all.
So people ask me that. So it's a very interesting. Someone said to me literally before with this podcast, I'm going to sign up for your service for an associate. But Paul, can you help me find a hygienist? I go, that's a great question, Dr. Smith. A lot of people ask me that. That's how I respond is, we have partners that help you do that, because I only have enough sanity to help work with dentists. So I'll share this in an unpacking way. I have spent the last 7 years to get a lot of dentists to pay attention to me. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of money, a lot of time. It's been a massive undertaking. I don't have that superpower with hygienists and dental assistants and front desk team members, but there are other people who have that superpower. So we collaborate with them. So we do help, but it's not us. You will not be paying us directly. They might sponsor our group, but there's some great people out there that can help you with that.
Awesome. Yeah. Everything you've put together with Dental Nachos, Dentist Job Connect, really does serve the market well and the industry well. There's so much that you're doing.
I appreciate it.
Guys, if you're not aware of them and you haven't checked them out, haven't joined the groups, jump in. It's easy, and I promise you it's a safe place where you can get a lot of valuable advice.
Thanks, Brett.
So I always like to end my show with, what's that one nugget? If there's one domino you could push over for docs or their teams, if they could just have this epiphany, and it would have that ripple effect that really made a big impact in their lives, their practice, what would that one thing be that you could share?
I love that you give me this opportunity. I want to thank you for doing these podcasts, how much work they are. I also want to thank you for help with marketing, because dentists don't understand marketing. Marketing just brings you more of the patients you want to see on your schedule. So we should embrace marketing more. They should tell people that. But my nugget is, for someone who is known as the Facebook guy or the social media guy, and remember, I'm 47. I didn't grow up with social media. To me, social media is a tool. It's not like I love Facebook more than TikTok or Instagram more than LinkedIn. To me, they're just awesome tools for connection. But my nugget might be a little bit what people don't expect. I talk about JBN, just be nice in my group, and this one is JSU, just show up. Show up to CE events in your town. Don't fly to the fancy ones. Don't go to some continuum. Show up to CE events 4 times a year in your town and sit next to someone you don't know and ask them questions. And if you do that, you will find a practice to buy, an associate to hire, a practice to sell, a hygienist down the street. But if you don't do that, you will never happen, because face-to-face regional dentist interaction is the way to truly do something magical in your career. And dentists do not do it nearly enough.
That is valuable. Yeah, connection. Getting to know your market, getting to know what's going on in your market by talking to those who are in your market versus going all the way to New York or Chicago midwinter or
4 times a year in your own backyard, meet the people, be friends. It will unlock a world that you didn't know existed, but it will not unlock that world unless you just show up.
What's the best way? Say I'm like new. How do we find those local events?
You know what? It's a really good question. And I have some sponsors coming on Nachos who are asking us for help with that, because dentistry is very terrible with taking a lot of data and putting it in one place. I'll give an example. My major C event this year is conflicting with 2 other major C events. I had no idea they were on that date. So this calendar is a problem. So what I would say is, as rudimentary as that sound is, if I'm in Philadelphia, I would start by Googling Philadelphia Dental Study Clubs. I would start by Googling Philadelphia Spear Study Clubs, Philadelphia Seattle Study Clubs, Philadelphia Dental Societies, and that will give you enough. And the other magical thing is, call up any of the specialists in your area and ask where they go to for study clubs. So Googling, literally just call the specialist and say, hey, Dr. Smith, see your periodontist. I'm a general dentist in the area. Are there any good study clubs to join?
That's a great advice. Yeah, that's good. Awesome. Well, this has been awesome, Dr. Goodman. Thank you for coming on. This has been great, and I really appreciate you and our relationship and everything you're doing. Thank you guys for tuning in. Dr. Goodman, where can they go if they want to connect with you better? Dental Nachos?
Would love you at dentalnachos.com, dentistjobconnect.com. They're both easy ways to get to me. Would love to get to know you as a friend, as a person, as a dentist, and thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, great to have you on. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And until next time on the Marketing 32 Show, have an awesome day.
Thanks, Fred.